So this video is about fluid analysis. We're going to use the fluid analysis card to identify the fluids and see if any are low. Then we're going to actually do some testing for coolant. We're going to use a strips to check the fluid and also hydrometer. For brake fluid, we're going to use this copper strips and the tester, and then we're going to check it with both the coolant and the brake, doing an electrolysis test. So we're going to need a couple rags, and this is what you're going to need. All right, so let's check our coolant. So there's two places to check your coolant. First off is if you see a radiator cap like this. Now this is part of the upper radiator hose, but the radiator's right here. You can pull this out and check the coolant here. Okay, always check your diaphragms and spring for your radiator cap. Make sure it's not cracked and old. We also can check coolant here. Okay, and see if there's coolant in there and it's at the proper level. It looks like that we could add a little coolant here. It is hard to read containers like that when it's old. All right, here we go. So we're just going to take a coolant strip. We're going to dip it, and you'll need one. We're going to dip it in the coolant. And it says on the instructions of this bottle to wait 45 seconds. Okay, you could read it on the bottle, but the fluid analysis chart also has a clearer picture, a little easier picture to read. So I actually like that than the fine print of reading this. All right, so we're at we're using all other coolants. This is for regular red coolants, which would be Asian. We're using all other coolants. So it looks like we're down here. We're about 60% ratio of water to coolant, which is right for our climate. And the freeze is -60 and the boiling point is 270. So this is the freeze point and the boiling point for Fahrenheit, and the red would be for Celsius. So we're good on that. Now let's check for alkalinity and pH. So you find it right here, and it looks like it's right here on the green, so it's good. So we do not even have to go to the final step here because it would have been green anyway. So if you're in these bottom two, you don't have to do the final step. If you're in the top, then you got to go to the final step to check the pH. You could also check your freeze point, but not the boiling point, with a hydrometer. And you bring this up, and then you look at it, and it looks like we're about -35 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that will also work, but it only tells you the freeze point. It does not tell you the boiling point. All right, so now we're going to check our brake fluid, our engine oil, our transmission fluid, our power steering fluid, and she does not have a differential transfer case, so we're going to check the 4 fluids. Master cylinder for the brakes right here. And it looks like it's on the maximum on the side. Open it up, verify that, and then you just take this right here and you're gonna put a little dot right here. It does look like it's a little dirty, so you know, probably wouldn't hurt to change that. All right, so now let's go to engine oil. I don't ever trust the first dip, I trust the second dip. So the first one I just wipe off. Second one I put this down inside there. So we're going to check our second dip, put that in there all the way down, pull it out. And her oil level is good. And you take a little bit of this and you put that in for the oil. Remember, this is more for you to start understanding that there is different fluids on the car that we have to be aware of. All right, next one's our power steering. Can't really read. When the bottles get old like this, it's really hard to read. And it looks like it's right at the right level. You need a little light in there sometimes. And then put your finger in there, get a little oil. So this is our power steering fluid. I would argue we could probably put a little bit more into that. I would write down on our lab sheet that the fluid is low. Okay, now we're going to check the transmission fluid. The car has to be running for your transmission fluid. Okay, there's a few weird cars out there that you need it off, but most cars you gotta have it running. I don't ever trust the first dip. The first dip, I just smell it, and I it should not smell burnt, and this is where I need a clean finger. So you smell it, and then you wipe it off. Next one, I'm going to check the level, and I'm going to also put a little dot on my sheet. And fluid level is looks like it's good. Okay, and then I can just put that right up there for the transmission. Okay, so if we look at this, my brake fluid's a little dirty. My power steering fluid, a little dirty. Or actually, that's the engine oil. So the engine oil is good. And power steering fluid right here, a little dirty. And then the transmission fluid is fine, because most of that was from my fingers. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to check my brake fluid now. We're actually .3, which is it's labeled on the cap .3. You just got to turn this on. It needs to be on 1, which means for .3. And you just take the cap off, hold the power button down, take the cap off the tester and stick it in. And if it's in the okay, you're good. But we look like we're completely bad. This brake fluid needs to change, because we're on 1 for .3 and we're not in the okay, we're above it. So that is a failed brake fluid. Okay, so the last thing we got to do is the electrolysis test to see if it's become acidic. We're going to choose DC. We're going to do it for the coolant first, and then you just go and touch the negative. And by the way, any part of the car is negative, so I could just go ahead for negative. I'm going to go here. And you want to see less than 300 millivolts. I'm on millivolts. I'm at 222. This passes. If it was 300, it would be bad coolant. So that coolant is good. Now let's go to the brake fluid. I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to stick it in the brake fluid. And now I'm going to go and check the electrolysis of the brake fluid. And it looks like we're at 200 again. So I would write that down on the lab sheet. And then both the brake fluid and the coolant passed the electrolysis test.